Technology is rewiring math students' brains and making it so hard for them to learn math in this point in time. Matter of fact, it's undoubtedly lowering math grades, throughout all of grade school. So I am a math tutor, but I'm also a parent as well. And my daughter, my older daughter who's in middle school, she told my wife, who then conveyed to me that while she's learning in class, she and her classmates are allowed to have their school issued laptops open. And I think that they are expected to be disciplined enough to not use the laptops while instruction is happening, but they are using them. And even my child conveyed to us, because we have very strict screen policy at home, and she conveyed to us that she herself is really seeking to lower her screen time. Uh, because again, this is something that they have access to a laptop all the time. Now we haven't even talked about smartphones and how probably most students have smartphones and whatnot. But this was like appalling to me. Now I am a millennial. I grew up between the 90s and well, really, I went to school mostly in the 90s, grade school, and then I went to college in the early to mid 2000s. And we had computers in school, don't get me wrong, but definitely not school issued. And even smartphones didn't really become popular. They started to become a thing when I was in middle school, and then students started to get them a little bit when I was in high school, but there was no, of course, smartphone or anything like that until, was it about 2010 or so. So that was even kind of after I got out of college. But let me tell you, I can't imagine learning under the circumstances that young people are learning under today. Students have access, at least where we are, students have access to their own devices that can be used during instruction. That is profound to me. Profound. Don't get me wrong. I am a math tutor. I'm also an engineer. I'm not anti tech. But what I'm very concerned about is technology that is being availed to our young people in a non-restricted fashion, or a very what I would say probably even under-restricted fashion. So when I was planning to record this video, I kind of was looking at some statistics that I wanted to share with you, and I'll share the link, of course, that I got these statistics from, uh, so that you can look at it yourself. But I want you to kind of check out some of these different things, these statistics regarding education, technology, attention span, and different things like that. So this says the average human attention span has decreased from 12 seconds in the year 2000 to 8 seconds in 2015. Okay, now this is 2026 now, so I don't know what the average human attention span is now, according to people's measurements. Gen Z users lose interest in an ad after just 8 seconds on average, which of course makes sense because back in our day, you had no choice but to watch ads. Because you had TV, you didn't have like a personal phone. Let me see what else here is probably relevant to what I want to talk about here. Mobile users have an average attention span of 1.7 seconds for a single piece of content in their feed. The average person checks their phone 150 times a day. Okay, so let's stop there. Think about this. When you are learning math, especially the higher you go, when you start to get especially into like algebra 1, geometry, stuff like that, it's a little more challenging. You have to, have to put more of what you learn together. Sometimes you have to like mentally visualize the math and different things like that. It becomes more challenging. And when I was learning math, when I would come and do my homework, now of course I'm not gonna act like our generation didn't have video games, but we were in my home. We were very much restricted with video games. Couldn't play them until the weekend. Um, and of course we had TV as well, but we weren't gonna like do our we couldn't just do our homework with the TV on. I'm saying, well, probably in the later years, my parents didn't necessarily regulate that as much, but I think we'd already developed pretty good habits by the time we were in high school, that type of thing. But we did not have notifications, social media with the likes and all these different things that draw your attention. We didn't have that growing up in school. We didn't. And now kids, even as young as elementary school age, have access to YouTube, uh, TikTok, all of these things that are training, rewiring our kids to have very, very short attention spans. And the thing is, whenever you're learning math, you have to be able to concentrate, especially the higher that you go. But if our attention spans are being drastically lessened because we're training our brains, to be able to only focus on short bursts and then also to have distractions while learning, how deep can you really go in your math education? Like, how deep can you really honestly go? This is very concerning to me. And then the fact that our students are being expected to self-regulate when even we as adults have a hard time self-regulating with Facebook, with YouTube, with Instagram, all of this kind of stuff. This is very alarming to me. Now, as a tutor, one thing I have noticed at times whenever, I'm tutoring where students will have their phones close by and I ask them, hey, you got to move that away, just make sure you stay focused. But you have to understand math and even other subjects require the ability to concentrate because sometimes you have to really think about the math that you're doing. You have to think about whatever it is that you're learning, versus it just being it. You're not just merely writing things on a paper. You're looking at a math problem. You are thinking about what is the way to solve this problem. You're implementing that on paper, thinking as you go until you get the solution. You have to be mentally engaged to do math. But when we have students who have tablets, uh, laptops, phones, and on those devices, there are various applications from, again, social media to YouTube to games and other things that are at the fingertips. It's hard to blame a kid for being distracted when they have access to that much in a powerful little device. So this is I'm not even joking, like this is really alarming to me. It's really alarming to me. And what I encourage, like I say here at home with my children, they can't use well, they don't have their own devices. And I'm not telling anybody how they should, you know, um, I'm not telling anybody how they should, do with their kids or anything like that. But what I will say is that we don't do devices, personal devices, and probably won't until our kids get, old enough to work or something like that. Another thing is, yes, our kids do have like a Nintendo Switch. They have a laptop, but they're only able to use that for strictly educational purposes. Very rarely, only when those things come up, and typically only on the weekend in small bursts of time, like no more than about 30 minutes a day. That might seem kind of excessive, but I'm determined to give my kids a focused environment in which to learn, to ponder whenever you're learning. Okay? Because again, I think we have to be honest as adults and and understand that we have a hard time focusing with current technology. We do. And I haven't even talked about AI, where um people are saying that AI is, having a negative effect on memory, like literally, because we're using artificial intelligence in ways almost like to think for us rather than to kind of work for us, just kind of like to do the work for us. Whereas we had to do our math, we had to write research papers, we had to use, note cards and different things like that when we were doing research papers. A lot of kids are just getting this, you know, uh, AI stuff to write their papers for them. Now, I'm not going to say I like to write papers. Of course, it was one of the things I really disliked, especially when it was a research paper. Well, if it wasn't a research paper, I didn't mind that much. But research papers, I did not like to do the note cards and all of that. But like, it was good exercise. It was good for me. It helped me to learn some skills that I've definitely learned in my adult years. But I'm just saying that to say I am very, very concerned about math students' access to technology while learning, while learning math and even the other subjects that I don't tutor, like, you know, uh, English and grammar and different things like that. Because it is a distraction. There are many studies that show that these distractions are lowering attention spans. And just think about how many different kind of rooms you divide your brain into when you're doing math, but then you're on TikTok and you're getting all that, you got the continuous infinite feed going through memes, Instagram, same thing, Snapchat maybe, you know, maybe looking at a video on YouTube. Your brain is divided so many different ways. I just don't see how that's actually good at all for learning for a math student in today's world. Let me know what you think about this because there's a whole lot more I could go into, even more statistics, and I may do that for future videos and whatnot because I really want to bring awareness to this. But let me know what you think about the effect of technology on attention span, math education in general, because I would love to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching this video.